Hello, today we're going to explore the line of symmetry. The line of symmetry can be defined as the axis or imaginary line that passes through the center of the shape or object and divides it into identical halves. Here, for instance, if we fold the figure cutout exactly at the center vertically, its halves will be congruent or equal. The line of the fold is the line of symmetry. So here is my figure. Notice this dotted line. That is called your line of symmetry. And what is really amazing is that on both sides of this line, if you look to the left, it is the exact same shape as that what is on the right of this line of symmetry. And here, this is the shape that you see on both sides. So if you were to fold on this line, and let's say this is my figure and I actually folded on this dotted line, you're going to find that both pieces go directly on top of each other. And they're exactly the same amount on the left side of that line and the right side of that line. That proves that this is the line of symmetry, and this figure is symmetrical. Figures are shapes that have exact resemblance to its other parts. When divided into two or more equal parts are called symmetrical. So notice here, here's my dotted line, and in fact I'm even going to highlight this so you can see it even more. So this line that I'm drawing, this is called your line of symmetry. Notice to the left and the right of this line is the exact same amount and the same size and shape on both sides of the line. Therefore, the object is called symmetrical. Here we have a piece of an apple. Same thing. On this dotted line, this is called my line of symmetry because we have the same amount on both sides, and same for this butterfly as well. Notice it's exactly the same on both sides, and if I had a piece of paper with this drawing on it and I was to fold on this dotted line or my line of symmetry, you're going to find that it goes right on top of each other and looking as they have exactly equal parts on both sides. The shapes and objects that do not resemble each other when divided into two parts are called asymmetric. That means that this figure here, no matter where you draw a line, if I was to draw a line here, I could try here, I could try here. Nowhere can I draw a line in this figure to show that there's equal parts on both sides of the line. So therefore, it's not symmetrical. And same for all of these objects here. If I was to draw a line right here through this object, it's not the same amount on both sides. So therefore, it would not be symmetrical. And as you go and take a look at each of these objects on this piece of paper, none of them are symmetrical because nowhere can you draw a line to form two equal parts. Lines of symmetry can be vertical, horizontal, or diagonal. It all depends on what object is given to you. Now, here we have an arrow. If you were to draw a vertical line this way, you're going to find that we can't get an equal amount on both sides. So I'm going to actually erase this line here, and then we can see that the dotted line already drawn for us is known as my line of symmetry. And this is correct because when I take a closer look at this line, above and under the line is exactly the same amount, size, pieces on both parts. That's telling me that this object can be broken into two equal parts with the same amount on each side of that line. This figure here, drawing a vertical line, works. This is our line of symmetry for this object. In fact, this object is symmetrical because you can draw a line of symmetry, except this time it's just vertical. Same for here. This time it's on a diagonal, but that's okay that it's a diagonal line, not vertical or horizontal, because we're still forming two equal parts on both sides of that line. If I was to draw a vertical or horizontal line here, it would prove that it's not symmetrical. But if I tried to draw a diagonal line, I in fact can find my line of symmetry. So it is okay if you draw that line of symmetry in any direction you need to do. The line of symmetry produces reflections that coincide. Here's how shapes and objects can have multiple lines of symmetry. So here we have a rectangle, and in fact you can draw a line of symmetry vertically and horizontally. That's absolutely fine, whichever way you choose. And as you take a look at all of these figures here, many objects will have more than one line of symmetry. And it's up to you which line of symmetry you would like to use to prove that this object or figure is symmetrical. You can choose any form you would like. And in fact, sometimes you might prove, well, this it's symmetrical vertically and horizontally by drawing more than one line of symmetry. And that is completely fine. These are very unique figures that have more than one line of symmetry. And if that is the situation in any problem, that's okay to have more than one line of symmetry. Now here we're going to tell whether the dotted line on each shape represents a line of symmetry. And you're going to write yes or no. So in these problems, you are already given the line of symmetry. Some objects you might feel could be symmetrical, but the given line of symmetry does not prove that. So you have to make sure that the line of symmetry that you're drawing or describing for an object is proving that it is symmetrical. So here it looks like we have a candy wrapper. And in fact, I noticed they drew a horizontal line of symmetry. And I'm looking above and under that line and I see that it's an exact equal amounts on both sides of that line. Therefore, the answer, yes, this line proves that this object is symmetrical and it does represent a line of symmetry that describes this well. For here as well, this is an object that could have more than one line of symmetry, and that's completely fine. But we're going to look at the given line of symmetry. And by drawing this diagonal line, it shows me that it's the exact same on both sides. So yes, this does represent a line of symmetry that describes this object well. Now this dotted line, does it represent a line of symmetry or not? We have to take a closer look. Now, a rectangle is symmetrical, but this dotted line does not describe or represent a line of symmetry here, even though this figure is symmetrical. So instead, yes, my answer is no, because this dotted line can be improved. We can draw this dotted line in a different direction to represent a line of symmetry. And to do that, we can either draw a vertical line or a horizontal line to describe a line of symmetry here. And just like D, this dotted line as well does not represent a line of symmetry because if I look above and under, you have a completely different amount of this object above and under that line of symmetry. So therefore, it's proving that that's not a good line of symmetry. But instead, looking at this object, you can draw this line a different way. If I was to draw a line right down my middle here, this would be a good representation of a line of symmetry because now if I look to the left and if I look to the right, I can see that I do have the exact same amount on both sides. So right away you might recognize that, well, this figure is symmetrical, but you need to prove it by drawing a line of symmetry. But when you're drawing a line of symmetry, after you draw that line, you have to go back and check it out and make sure that you have the same amount to the left, to the right, or above and under that line. That line of symmetry is breaking that figure into two equal pieces. Now here it's saying draw a line of symmetry on each shape. So in fact, I already drew the line of symmetry. We're just going to confirm that these lines are correct. So by looking at each of these figures, like here, this red line is showing me that it is in fact equal amounts above and under. Now there could be other ways to do this, but in fact, I think this is the only way here. And then by drawing that horizontal line, it's proving that this is symmetrical if I look at that line of symmetry in that direction. Now same for here. Notice my goal is to figure out where can I put that line of symmetry so I can break this figure into two equal parts. Same for the peace sign. Exactly the same on the left and the right, and same with this figure as well, the same amount above and under. Now notice it's okay to draw that line of symmetry horizontally, vertically, or even if you had an object that you can draw diagonally, that is fine as well. Now here your goal is to draw the second half of each symmetrical shape. Now what is great is they already gave us one piece, which means I need to now draw exactly the same piece on the other side. So this looks like it's going to be a heart. This is where it gets fun. So my goal is to make it look almost exactly the same, which obviously it's not always that easy, but this is where the drawing and the creativity gets really interesting and fun, trying to make it exactly the same, showing that it's an equal amount on both sides of that line of symmetry. For here as well, I'm going to try my best as I'm drawing and literally mirroring ultimately what is on the left to the right, showing that these figures are symmetrical. And I'm showing that it's an equal amount on both sides. And this is proving that these objects are symmetrical. And here as well, above and under this line is exactly the same amount. So notice what I attempted to draw on the other side of that line of symmetry was exactly what was already given to me. Now today you might see problems like this. You're going to be given a line of symmetry through an object. Now your goal is to determine, was that line of symmetry a good representation to represent that that is symmetrical, that this object is symmetrical. Now your line of symmetry given to you, you have to determine, well, is that a good line of symmetry? And you could determine that by looking above and under that line to determine if there's an equal amount on both sides of the line of symmetry. So by looking here, I see that there is an equal amount above and under. So yes, this is symmetrical. Same for this arrow. I'm looking, it's a diagonal line of symmetry, which is completely fine, looking to the right, to the left of that, and I notice it's exactly the same on both sides. And same as well with this kite, above and under has exactly the same. So these are all great representations of a line of symmetry. However, not all problems the line given to you will be a good representation. And all you're going to say is yes or no. You don't have to draw it in today, but you're just going to represent yes or no. Is that a good line of symmetry given to you? So notice this line here. This object, you might see, yes, it could be symmetrical, but this line of symmetry is not a good representation of that. Yes, we can draw this another way to show that it's symmetrical, but the given line is not a good representation because to the left and right is different amounts on both sides. Same for here. There's other ways I could draw this line of symmetry, but the given line of symmetry does not show that this is two equal pieces. And same for this star. Okay, if we were to draw a vertical line, yes, that would show it's symmetrical, but we were given a horizontal line placed in an area of this star that is proving that there's not two equal parts on both sides of that line of symmetry. So depending on what problem is given to you, you are going to need to identify if that line of symmetry is an accurate description to prove that this is a symmetrical object. So all you're going to be answering is yes or no, but you need to take a close look at that given line of symmetry to determine, are there two equal parts on both sides of that line? If there is, yes, that line of symmetry is a good representation. But if there's not two equal parts, you would simply answer no, that was not a good representation of a line of symmetry. So during today's problems, please feel free to refer back to this video at any time to help you as you're exploring lines of symmetry.